Welcome to the Morse Code Podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurially minded musicians, artists, and writers. My name's Korby, and I'm hoping these conversations inspire you to push deeper into your own work, whether you're a full-time professional or just starting out on your own creative odyssey. Okay, I'm really excited to introduce my next guest, a rising star in the singer-songwriter community here in Nashville. I first heard about Abby Jane from, I think, a dozen friends at once. She played a show at this club I hang out at, and I didn't catch the show, but I heard about it from a bunch of people I respect. So I tracked her down and listened to her music, and I liked it. Okay, tight songs, cool production. But what really grabbed me was a couple of posts she made where it's just her singing and playing, unadorned. And it was that, her effortless approach to singing, which is, to me, like the key element in any singer that I want to listen to. It has to do with believability. Okay, what am I trying to say here? There are two kinds of singers in this world. That's it. The singers you believe and the singers you don't. An artist's believability as a performer has only a loose connection to technical concerns like pitch and breath support and whatever else your vocal coach taught you. What a coach can't teach you, though, is the one thing you have to have. Some people call it authenticity, which is a word that's getting thrown around so much it's a little tired. So I prefer the term believability because that's what it is. Do I believe you? And when I watched those posts that Abby Jane put up, I was like, I believe you. We taped this conversation a few weeks ago. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was just really impressed by her thoughtful approach to creativity and the care she took in responding to my questions. I always tend to go, I guess I would call it, philosophical in my interests. And Abby was right there with me the whole time. Girl can hang. We taped a song that day, which you'll hear in this episode, and I sat in with her and played a little and sang a harmony, and I just had so much fun that I asked her to be on this bill that's coming up next week here in Nashville. So if you like this conversation, please find Abby on Spotify and on the socials and grab you a ticket to come to this show. It's korbylinker.com is probably the easiest way to do that. The show I'm talking about is happening Saturday, February 15th, 2025. It's going to be a really special night. I'm playing a set with my new band. Abby Jane is playing. Last week's amazing guest, Carl Anderson, is playing a set. Another Morse Code podcast alum, Ryan Rado, who hosts his own very cool pod called Make It Perfect. He was on a few weeks ago. He's going to be out there doing some live immersive painting from out in the middle of the crowd. And last but not least, we're screening a world premiere of the music video we made for this new song I'm putting out, my first single of 2025 called Meet Me at the End of the World. We commissioned a super talented director, Mila Villaplana, also a Morse Code podcast alum. She created the music video, which is this wild high concept affair featuring a piece set during the Vietnam War, a Singin' in the Rain style dance sequence. Actor Mason McCarty stars in it. That dude is so talented. I fucking cried when we were filming, just watching the monitor. Anyway, the point of all this is to say I'm just really excited about the show and I want you to come. And also, I'm just really excited to be alive and to make art and to find meaning in the world. And I'm fortunate to live in this town and be surrounded by people who are as passionate as I am. It's taken me 40 years to figure this out, but my purpose in life is to ignite your inner fire, your creativity, your passion, whatever it is that makes you come alive. I notice that when I'm around people who are giving themselves permission to be amazing, I tend to give myself the same permission. And that's what I want to do for you, if you let me. We got one life here. Every single day counts. I'm on a fucking mission to be alive and to stay alive and to help whoever's interested come alive too. So come with me, or at least come to the show February 15th. It's going to be fantastic. And now, enjoy this conversation with Abby Jane. Abby Jane, thanks so much for making some time for me.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And I'm excited because I'm a fan of the music and your voice and your singing. And you just earlier this year released a new record. I want to say it's called I Don't Want to Pretend.
Yes, that's it.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
And is that the second one?
It's the first one on my name being Abby Jane. I was in a band before this, and so this is my first like full project. I had 2 singles come out earlier under a different name.
With the band? So was the band like a long time project or?
That was that was a long time project. I had several songs come out under that name. It was called Breakup. And it was me and another guy. We were like an indie pop duo. And we never broke up. We just both are doing our own projects. And
so there could be a record in the future.
We've never closed down the idea. It's just kind of been like, we live in different towns. We both had other projects we were wanting to work on. And I just really had this like kind of longing to do my own project. And so I just went for it, I guess. Yeah.
You're sole songwriter on all the songs?
Yeah. I wrote with Emmy Elliott on one of the songs, 9, and I wrote with Sam Westhoff, who also produced the project. But yeah, some I wrote on my own. It was just kind of like a mixed bag.
Cool.
But was a part of the writing on all. Yeah.
Yes. I'd love to get into the songwriting side of it for a second, or in a second. But the first thing that stands out to me on the new record is it's like heavily like produced. It's like a big production, big sounds kind of record. Is that in the similar vein to your former project? Is this sort of like an extension of that, or is it a departure?
Yeah, I feel like the production side of things has always really mattered to me. I love being a part of that process, and just like, I love watching it happen. I love like giving input on kind of how I feel I want the song to go. And I feel like it did stem off Breakup in a sense, because our production was kind of on the heavier side with that. I feel like if anything, it maybe stripped down a little bit more with Abby Jane, more guitars and like more acoustic driven songs. And whereas my band was more of kind of like a synth pop band.
That makes sense then. So that the production side for you is like collaborative.
Yeah,
in a sense,
definitely.
you're in the room with the producer.
Yeah.
I can imagine that being a big part of the adventure.
Yeah.
I say this as somebody who, I mean, I've made, I'm a little long in the tooth, so I've made a lot of records over the years in different capacities. And I've found that I'm getting to a place where I like to write the song and I like to play with other people a lot. And then the collaboration side, after having produced records, my own records, other people's records, I don't think I'm very good at it. I'm just going to say that. I mean, there's been satisfied customers in my past, so no refunds.
I'm sure.
But but I think that there's other people that are just so gifted at that like I have a song coming out in a couple of months. So I'm sort of getting back into the music game after a departure. And I really just like wrote a song. It's like acoustic bass with parts. And I went and played it with my producer for him in his studio. He recorded it. And then I just came back a month later and made a few tiny notes on the mix check and it was done. And that was a completely different non-collaborative experience. And where am I going with this? Where I'm going is that I am a person that is like, I like to control things. And at the same time, I recognize that letting other people in makes things better, but it also makes things sometimes less mine. And that like tension is something I'm still learning after decades of doing it, like when to let go and let somebody in and maybe just like let a thing breathe, and when to be like, you know what, this is my vision. Do you have any experience with that feeling, that sort of push-pull feeling, and how do you negotiate that?
Yeah, I think sometimes I wish I could do the production, like full on all of it myself. Not because I want it to all be mine, but I think more so just like I wish I had that natural just
Is it a skill?
you know? Or if anything, if I had the natural want to like sit down and really adapt the skill fully, I just have never, it's like I'm fascinated with watching it and being a part of it and listening in on it. I've never been super passionate about like that being like
turning
my
the knobs
thing. Yeah, that being my main thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like, there's pressure. I'm like, should I like learn this fully and like know how to do all this? There's tension there, but I think I really do enjoy collaborating. I feel like I've learned so much from the people I've worked with. That's kind of made me kind of who I am as an artist now. And I feel like as long I do better, or let me backtrack. I do better in a scenario where I feel like we're both collaborating equally and we can hear each other. Because not all of my ideas are going to be the best. And I like when someone can tell me like, let's try this, or this might be better. Let's add this in. And I also love a space where I can say like, I don't really like that, or maybe we try this. I think this might be more my style, or I want to add this in.
Yeah. A true collaboration.
Yeah. If it's true collaboration, I feel my most like confident self.
Yeah. I mean, who can't understand that?
Yeah. It's kind of like 1 + 2 = 3, but yeah.
Well, and I also know, there's different kinds of artists on an A spectrum, we'll say. And like on one extreme is like a person I can play guitar and I can sing and I have no idea what's going on the electronic side or the console side. And another person, I'm more like this person. I can run a Logic session or Pro Tools. I can do that. And I think that there's pluses and minuses with both of those things. For me, it's like, it was a practical consideration because just being, broke, but wanting to create and being like, okay, well, if I can learn how to do this, then I can do it. And then even as I got a little bit where I could hire other people, I still would, but there's like comping a vocal. I'm just so fast at it by myself that I was just like, I don't want to sit there and have to say, no, that take.
Yeah.
I just want to sit there and just do it really fast.
Right.
But that kind of thing, I don't think is, I think it could have, if I would have had it to do all over again, I might have been like, dude, just write more songs and do the thing that you're best at and like let other people help you. So I don't know. I think don't learn how to use Pro Tools.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't need anything else. Like I don't need another
skill to develop or.
No, I'm sure I do. I'm just saying like, juggling a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What are you juggling these days? I mean, I know we talked about it a little bit, but maybe it'd be nice to share that.
Yeah. Well, I'm a florist and I have my own business. So I'm juggling that. And, I'm really, really into like table designs and gatherings and just hosting and working with brands. And so, I'm like filling my time with that and taking on, different gigs and stuff like that. And that's super fun.
The running the business side of that, is that a skill or you have a knack for running a business?
I'm still figuring that out. I feel like I have a lot of friends in the industry who I can like lean on and ask questions about how to do this or that. And it's super encouraging and inspiring. I also feel like I also love working for other florists. So it's like I'm trying to figure out if I'm a business owner, but I kind of like doing my own thing as well. So I'm just kind of doing it.
Yeah.
To be honest, I just kind of went for it and I'm continuing it. So,
you're getting gigs. You're making money.
Yeah.
Something's working.
Yeah. And really like it's become kind of like I'm not just doing it for the money, but it's definitely become something that like I feel like I can do that I love that makes money.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad.
And you're not like trying to pay your rent with your next song,
No.
And so
I wouldn't be able to pay my rent.
Like many aren't and still do that, though, is the thing. But I feel like in some ways our careers are like our approaches are really different because I was always the guy that was just like, it's music or nothing and I will starve or this song is going to pay my rent. And so a lot of times it's just starved. But I think there's a lot to be said for having like a skill on the side that you like don't hate. You know, and then your music can just be like purely your thing.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's your relationship right now with
the
musical side of what you do.
Yeah, I love it. I'm working on an album, like a full length, 12, maybe 13 songs. And I love songwriting and.
Mm-hmm. And is it will be in the same vein? Is this same collaborators?
Yeah.
I think?
Yeah, it's going to be kind of in the same vein. I'm working with Asher Peterson on a lot of the production. And so we're having so much fun with that.
Nice.
So it's good.
How is it working with another musician? You're married to a musician. And so he's got his own musical path.
Yeah.
Is that, is it a seamless interaction between you guys? Is there friction there, or is it? How is it?
I feel like it's been seamless in the way that I guess it's really always what we've knowing each other. So it's, I feel like when we first, when we first got together, we were both kind of heavily doing music and so we kind of knew that about each other. And I feel like we encouraged that in each other. And then when we first moved to Nashville, I kind of put music on the back burner for a while and was unsure kind of what I wanted to do with it and how I was going to make it work in a new city and who I was going to work with, and, all those things. And I think it's kind of picked back up in the last year. And I feel like he's been super supportive of that. And we haven't really clashed on anything. There's no competition or anything like that. If anything, I feel like we've started to maybe kind of work with each other a little bit more, which has never happened in our relationship. We've always kept it very separate. I feel like we would just we would get into a little bit of silly arguments when we work together, or just put pressure on the song. And I feel like it has to happen organically if we work on music. It has to be I'm working on something around the house or working on work, and he's like, do you have can you come help me with this chorus? And then I will come in, and then maybe we'll end up working the whole rest of the day. If we set a time to work on a song, it doesn't really happen.
It's got to be, organic.
And I think we like to make sure our time together isn't just music, because he tours a lot, and so if we're apart, we just kind of want to hang out and go to movies,
do something fun,
do normal, not music oriented stuff.
I had a friend on here a couple of weeks back, Walker Burrows. He's a full-time musician guy, really talented guy. And I was shocked to hear him say how he and his girlfriend will go to the coffee shop and play board games on the regular. And I was just like, how do you do it blew my mind, because to me, music is such a struggle. You got to just do it all the time, man. You don't have time for doing fun stuff. And it's nice to hear the kids, the younger generation, figuring out this work-life balance that eluded me at that time, at least. Where I'd like to talk about a little bit about where music came from for you. And was it a part of your household experience, or where did the need to express yourself through music, what was the origin of that?
My dad was a really incredible piano player by ear, and really great singer, just had the amazing ability to harmonize, and so singing was always in our house. I feel like before bed, we'd read a book, and then we'd sing harmonies. My dad would be like, let's try this harmony, and let's try this harmony. It was always that was my favorite thing to do, was be can we harmonize to this song or whatever. So I feel that I remember doing that from a young age, and I just loved performing. I would put all my stuffed animals out on my bed and put on an album and just sing through the whole album to the music. And I thought no one could hear. When you're a kid, you just kind of think no one's listening to you. You're just in your own world. But if someone came in the room, I would freak out, cry, be like, oh my gosh, everyone heard that. I was like really shy, unless I was in my own space. But yeah, I kind of took that to taking choir and doing voice lessons and just trying to find, I lived in a small town in Oklahoma. And so really if you wanted to do music, it was like you take voice lessons and you are in choir at school. Mm-hmm. And so it's always been a part of my life.
What about the songwriting part? Like how old were you when you wrote your first song-ish?
I was probably like 9 or 10. I would write in my journal all the time. Mm-hmm. Just come up with these songs, little songs. I never really wrote like a full on song, probably until I was in high school. And I don't know why. I think maybe I just thought like I have all these things in my journal. What do I do with them? Mm-hmm. You know, like,
yeah.
And I didn't pick up guitar until high school, a lot later. So that's when I kind of started like putting the two together and being like, oh, I could play something and put words to it. Mm-hmm. So that happened in high school. And my best friend and I would go to her house after school and I'd bring my guitar and we would teach each other how to play different chords that we like learned on YouTube. And we would play this exact same thing together. We never we just played the same thing and we would just sing like a cover of a song and harmonize with each other, or we would write songs together. And that's kind of how it started. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you remember a song or two of that time that was like, what was early on in the Abby Jane repertoire?
Yeah, I'm thinking back to one, and it's kind of, I feel like my songs were kind of dark.
Yeah.
Looking back. Like, I think of, like, I mean, I don't know if I sing it right now, but it was, like, kind of dark.
Yeah.
My lyrics were kind of pretty deep. Like.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, teenagers, brood. That's a thing.
Yeah.
I was a brooder myself.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense that I noticed that my early records, I made a record when I was maybe 20 through 25. There's maybe 3 records or so that came in then. I listened back to those times. I'm like, man, you were just so depressed. You're just not just depressed, but like sort of in love with being depressed.
Yeah.
Like that's not, I don't think, terribly unusual for singer-songwriter types. I have found that being less depressed or being less interested in being depressed in a way, like I have a family now and life is actually like sort of wonderful. All things considered, there's problems, but they're first world problems. And I don't feel like, oh no, I don't have anything to write about, but I don't want to write zippity doo-dah music at all. I'm not called to do that. So I'll still try to find a strain of melancholy in there.
Yeah.
But it is tricky to write something that is both like feels true and is not just like, oh, woe is me.
Yeah.
Because if I were to write, oh, woe is me, it actually wouldn't be true in a way. Because I don't, it's just not a reflection of my situation.
Yeah. I love kind of just the way you are as a kid. You don't really care what everyone thinks as much. Like, I feel like I would go into I went into a pizza place once with my guitar and my best friend, and we both just went into the kitchen. We were like, can we play this song for you? Like, we want to play here on like Monday nights. And I like straight up walked into the, like, where the chefs were cooking and sat there and was like, I'm doing this. And I don't think I'm that way.
You wouldn't do that now? You don't think?
No, I wouldn't. I'm like, I don't know what happened to me, but I would
You're
do
fearless.
Yeah, I was fearless.
Yeah.
And it always like paid off at that age, like in a way for like that age. But
I feel like fearlessness often does. It's just a skill that's sort of unlearned with time as you sort of start to feel more mortal. How did that sort of attitude square with your guys' move to Nashville, which is a very critical town that's chock full of talent?
Yeah.
Did that feel, was there a squeeze there? creatively for you, at least initially, or is there? Or
Yeah, it definitely took me time, still figuring it out, to know my place as far as like, not know my place, but just like, what is this going to look like for me now? I'm making new connections. I'm, trying to figure out who I'm going to collab with here. If I'm going to collab, all those questions kind of came into my brain and it felt overwhelming. I was going through a lot of personal stuff at the same time. So it was just hard to like navigate what I was going to do. And I feel like, I'm sure people have mentioned this before, but I read The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron, and that book just like kind of really opened the door for me to be like, really the only thing that's holding me back is me right now. And if I'm wanting something and I love something so much and I've always loved it, like why, that should be enough. I should just do it. And I kind of got that innocence of a child back, of just like, or the fearlessness of just like, I'm going to do this, and I'll put the time into it that it takes when I can, and I'll make it work. And I definitely struggled though at the move and just being in a new place and not really knowing anyone. And I had a lot of negative, to be vulnerable, I had a lot of negative voices in my head just being like, you didn't figure it out before you moved to Nashville, so it's too late. And you have to have it figured out before you move. And if you don't, you should just set it aside, because how are you going to prove it? And that played in my brain, and it would keep me from doing it or doing anything. So instead I was like, yeah, that's true. So I'm just not going to do it. And then,
what, was there a moment or an action that you took when you were like, actually, I am going to take some steps toward this thing? And, like what did that look like for you when you finally were like, you know what, I'm not going to listen to these voices for a hot minute?
Yeah. Well, I started to come up with like notes and ideas, and I was like, these are either going to just like sit here or I can do something with them. That was one part of it. Another part of it was also Troy really encouraged me, like my husband really encouraged me in it. I also think he was kind of probably a little exhausted seeing me just kind of go on and on about,
So do something about it, babe.
Yeah, and he kind of was hard on me in a sensitive way of just like, I can't make you do this, and that really kind of stuck with me. I was like, okay, I kind of saw myself as two people. I was like, I'm either going to be the person that talks about how I'm not going to do something and puts myself down for the rest of my life, or I'm going to be the person that tries to overcome that and does it. And I think that was what I was facing. And I started reading the book, and that The Artist's Way, and that
helped a lot. Yeah.
I started
doing your morning pages.
Yeah. And going through like childhood stuff. And that really, I think it was a lot of that opened up healing for me to just like allow myself the space, if anything.
Yeah. And when did you, you're talking about this like it's very recent, or like within the last 1-2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in the last year or two. I think it's maybe been 2 now. It goes so fast.
Amazing. So how many times have you played out, like live in town?
Twice. Yeah.
Was one of them at the Urban Cowboy?
Yeah. That was my
God.
like release show. And then before that I played at the Basement. The smaller one is at the Basement.
Yeah, the Basement.
Yeah.
The OG Basement, as they say.
Yeah, I opened for a good friend, Berksy, which is a great artist. But I was so scared.
Yeah.
The first show, I was so scared.
The Urban was the first show?
No, the Basement.
The Basement was, yeah. I feel like the Basement would actually be a little easier to play. And
yeah, I just hadn't played, and I hadn't played a show in maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
Because I used to play, my bandmate and I used to play all the time back in Tulsa. Yeah, I was just like, I don't know if I can do this in Nashville. But
oh my God.
It was the best feeling.
It's the best. It's
afterwards, I was like,
yeah,
what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is the best.
The best. Just to feel afraid and to go and do it anyway. And then, oh my God, that's just such a rite of passage that a gift only you can give yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I feel like that it resonates very strongly with me. And I do a couple of other things, you know, I'll act a bit, and I'm like a newcomer to that thing.
Yeah.
I'm maybe 6 years into it now, but after having played music for a really long time, I toured a lot, and I've just got like, my show was kind of dialed, and my banter was dialed, you know, I was funny. I just like felt very confident doing it all.
Like, I'm cool.
And I wouldn't say I would be cool, because I don't think I've ever been cool, but I just kind of had a thing, you know. But my point is that like a little of the terror sort of faded with time. I got, you know, so it wasn't scary to play. Yeah. And I recognized that. I was like, I need to do something that's scary. And I had happened upon like an acting studio, and I was like, I have no business doing that, but I kind of am curious. I want to watch it at least. I just want to sit there and see what people do. I'd never seen like acting in real life or anything. And having watched it, I was like, I kind of want to try it. And just the very first time I did that, I was so terrified. And basically every time ever since, I've been so terrified in advance. A little bit less now, but that same kind of like, what is about to happen? Feeling, and having, you know, when you're on the other side of that, is like, I did it, or it was fun. It's more like that. It was fun. And like this part of the point of this podcast is, I think that the people that listen to this podcast are having their own journey with creative stuff, and that like a lifelong adherent and disciple of the intrinsic worth of making art for its own sake. And so I find it endlessly fascinating, people's own relationship with their own creative journey. And like yours, I feel like this is really exciting to catch you so early on in this sort of upswing. You know, 10 years from now, you could be playing Bridgestone. Who knows? Not that you want to, I don't, you know, but I mean, it's just like anything is possible. And, you know, you could like listen back to this conversation a few years from now and be like, wow, I was just like, I was there then. And everyone changes so much as time goes by. If you had a vision for your music, no right answer, wrong answer, or vision necessary, but just curious, what would that look like if you could just like write your own ticket and this was my career? What would that be? Do you know?
I think I would definitely, if I'm being 100% honest, I would love for music to be like full time. I'm just doing it every day. I love, even if I'm just writing for other artists, like I love that aspect of things. And I'm just thinking about what I really love, and that's part of it. And I think also the singing aspect, it kind of sounds cheesy to be like, I love to sing, but I really do. And so I feel like that's part of performing. Even though performing freaks me out, I feel like to get to a place where I'm comfortably doing it over and over, I feel like you have to build that. The more you do it, the more you're like, this is natural for me. And I feel like I see myself getting to a place where it's more natural and like I'm doing it more. And that's a goal that I have. I also think, I just see myself continuing to put out more projects. I don't know what they look like yet, but I
think that's goal enough for me.
Those are just kind of the things I hope for.
I like that because
I'm trying to change the world. I just want to.
They're like creative goals.
Yeah, I just want to. Yeah, be a part of doing that.
Maybe that's a nice segue. Because you brought your guitar and you were gracious enough to let me try to accompany you on a song here in the studio, and maybe we could do that right now. Okay. And the song I think is Motel. Yeah. Do you want to set that up? What's it about? What made you write it?
Yeah, the song's about giving yourself to something or someone that, you know, doesn't want any help, and how the tension can be there for you. Like, I feel like for me, I tend to kind of fight for someone, or give and give and get for someone that isn't receiving or doesn't want that, and I can find myself kind of carrying that burden afterwards. And I feel like the first line of the song, I'm gonna pull up in my car because I can, was coming from a place of like, well, I'm gonna help again. I'm gonna do this. And I feel like we have a choice as people to like decide with boundaries how much we're gonna do for someone or give to someone. And I think that was kind of a way of me saying like, I'm gonna do this because I can. And it might not be healthy for me, but I'm gonna do it. And it's that voice in my head being like, I know that this is too much. And so that's kind of how I started the song. And then the bridge talks more about the motel and an experience I had at one point in my life. And after some EMDR, EDMR, I always forget if it's EDMR or EMDR, but therapy, I like kind of talked over one of those memories, and that came to my brain as a time where I was choosing kind of which route I'm going to go. Am I going to give everything, or if I'm going to kind of set up a boundary? And I think that I tend to feel like if I can give someone everything, then maybe it won't feel so hard and it won't feel so tragic, is what I say. It might make it feel better, but it ends up just being your burden. So that's kind of, I guess, what the song's about. Yeah.
Let's play it.
I'm gonna pull up in my car, 'cause I can. Every time I think I can save you, I can. I'm carrying the weight of your world that's heavy on my chest. I'm finding it a little too easy to be second best. If I could just give you enough, then maybe it won't feel so tragic. It's just my habit. A few minutes turned into an hour. I'm here pretending I'm not hurting. That's just my burden. Other people make it look easy, I swear. They'll take a dive into the deep end and swim. I wish that I'd jump in and feel the water on my skin. I wish that I'd give myself a reason to dive in. If I could just give you enough, then maybe it won't feel so tragic. It's just my habit. A few minutes turned into an hour. I'm here pretending I'm not hurting. That's just my burden. Every time I pass a motel, it reminds me I can see it so well. I see it so well. I'd find your white Dodge sitting right there in the parking lot, and I knew I couldn't help. If I could just give you enough, then maybe it won't feel so tragic. It's just my habit. A few minutes turned into an hour. I'm here pretending I'm not hurting. That's just my burden.
Well, that was really awesome. Thank you for letting me do that. And I didn't even make too many mistakes. So you carried the day. And I think that you're going to do just fine in this town is my gut feeling.
Let's hope.
Yeah. I mean, you're surrounding yourself with some pretty top shelf people, not the least of which is your husband. And I think it's just really exciting. And I really like, having been here for like 20 years, and watching sort of this new generation of artists who kind of grew up in honestly, a totally different time. Like I grew up without a phone. Phones happened when I was 22 or 3. At college, people didn't even have laptops in college. Like Napster came when I was like in my early 20s and sort of like destroyed the music business for 10 years. And but there's this new generation of kids that sort of grew up with like access to the entire pantheon of musical creation, and how do you, I'm not even asking you this unless you have a really good response. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but it's like for me, when when a new record came out, I was like a big Cure fan growing up. And when the new record came out, you knew it in like weeks and months in advance. And then when it came out, you went to the music store and you bought and you listened to the CD, and you had like a really close relationship with a collection of songs. And I have never really adjusted to Spotify's ability to just put everything at your fingertips all the time. Yeah. It's like pulled the rug out from under my feet in terms of like my relationship to music. It's just like, I don't even know where to start.
Right.
And having grown up with that technology, how have you navigated that? Or, have you thought about it, or is it just sort of like happened?
Yeah, I think it's funny how it just kind of happens, but I remember like scraping pennies together, asking for $1 to like buy a song on iTunes. Like that's kind of how it was. Uh-huh. I think when I was younger, it was like I would go buy a CD, listen to the whole thing over and over and over. I think then it like transitioned to like, okay, now I have to buy one song, and it's like, I forgot how much it was for one song.
99 cents for a long
but
time.
I would have like $10 and I'd be like, that's not enough money for the albums I want to listen to, So I remember being like, I feel like there was some limit there. So we would just still do the CD situation, which I love. I feel like how I've adjusted with Spotify and all of that, I feel like is I love listening through albums from start to finish. I like to see how the artist was like how they placed the songs. I also think it also has been a hard adjustment just with releasing music. I think it's intimidating sometimes to put your music out on a streaming platform and just kind of hope for the best and not be unsure like how it's going to do or if it's going to get playlisted and whatnot. And just that whole kind of pressure, I think, can sometimes feel daunting for me, but I also, it's how it is. So
yeah, you got to make your peace with it on some level.
Yeah, I feel like I would maybe feel even more different if I feel like I had watched it change. It almost feels like it changed in a time where I didn't even realize it changed.
Yeah, Spotify's been around for 10 years.
Yeah.
Plus. I get that. I'm also asking, like, almost from like a point of advice as well, because like I said, I'm sort of having taken maybe 6 years off, or not really. I put a record out in 2021, and I made like physical copies, CDs and vinyl and everything. And at that point, though, I had really pulled back on the constant touring that I had done, where you could sell merch and stuff. Right. It sort of made sense. Like this, it sucked for somebody in doing the music the way I did, which was like playing lots of shows and then selling merch at the shows, and that was like you could make a living. Yeah, and
that's like how you make money.
Yeah,
really is merch. I
merch.
Feel like.
No, totally. And then when I remember seeing the writing on the wall in like 2015 or something, it happened like in 2 summers of touring, where all of a sudden people just stopped buying CDs just outright because they were just like, we don't have a. And then when the laptops came out with no CD drive anymore, that was the end of it. And now it's just like makes no sense to make CDs because you gotta press 1,000, or you can like burn them or whatever maybe. And I'm not saying like this is the way. I'm like, this is the way I understand it in my limited understanding. But yeah, it's been a lot harder to justify making physical copies of things. And then with that, then all of a sudden I'm like, I guess I'm just putting out streaming singles just like everybody else for pennies on not pennies, like fractions of pennies on the play. And
I wish it were different.
Yeah. It's hard to have any motivation that's like grounded in reality of like, I felt like it used to be, and this is again, my limited understanding, but when I was playing the game really hard, you could sort of make a living. You could kind of do it. And now you kind of just have to be like, well, I'm called to make art. I love making art. I'm going to make it. And whatever comes of that is what will be. But I can't count on any sort of return. It's any sort of counting on that is a fool's errand in some way. You might be pleasantly surprised, but anyway, that's not even a question. That's just
No, I think it also, I understand what you're saying, and I feel like it also puts a lot of pressure on music and creating, because I think it feels like, okay, if my plays aren't this, or if my plays in some incidents with like friends or maybe just my past band, like if plays are like higher and nothing's happening or it doesn't really mean anything. In some circumstances it's like confusing, and then and other times it's like if they're not enough, it's just, it feels like this thing you've been working on for so long, or maybe you spent like forever working on an album and then it's just like you don't get to like physically hold it and pass it out or like and like touch it. And I feel like as people we're like, that's like a big deal.
You want to hold your baby in your hands.
Yeah, you kind of want to be like, that's why I love when people do vinyls. And like, even though it's expensive, like I think it is.
It's expensive.
Yeah, I would assume they like create that world where you can go purchase a vinyl. I think that's so cool. And I hope that never like dies.
Yeah, but I don't think it will.
Yeah, I don't think it will because people love that. And I know I love that when I am a fan of artists and they're, you know, selling a vinyl. But I also feel like it's kind of trickled into social media and Instagram and TikTok, I guess. Like I struggle with using like social media. I feel like I do a good job of it, looking like I do a good job of it, but like I feel like on the inside it's very hard for me.
You don't enjoy it.
I post and then I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I hate that post. Should I have said that? Yeah. Should I have, am I posting too much? Am I not posting enough? Sure. Like that is exhausting when you just want to create music. It's like, or you just want to create designs or whatever it is you're working on. And you have to think about all of that. It's just like, that's the hardest part, I think.
I marvel at people who don't have that struggle, who feel they just enjoy doing it. They love posting. They don't have that. But I feel like though it's just basic to the artist nature. I mean, if you're making, you're doing something creative, there's something in you that's critical minded. Otherwise, you wouldn't make any kind of good art ever, because you'd just be like, oh, that was great, I wrote another song. Yeah. You know, instead of like, this one is actually good compared, like I'm getting better or whatever. And so with that comes that sort of analytical thing. And then it's just like, there's such a sea of people raising their hands. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, I guess I'm raising my hand too.
Yeah.
I had somebody say something to me that was helpful. I got another guest and dear friend, Tim Lauer. He's a producer here in town. And he was just like, you know, the way I do it, the way I think about it is just like, I'm excited to share this. And he's like, I live in that space. I might even be falsely attributing this to him, but it makes him look good. So I'm going to stick with it. But you know, it's just like, that's enough. And that's helped me a little bit. Because if I'm like, I like this song and I think I just like it. It's like, I'm happy to share it. And whoever wants to listen can and should. And if I live there, then that helps me be not quite so self-critical or
Yeah.
insecure around it all. But yeah, it is really, we all have to have a relationship to it. And it's funny because it's like another aspect of this kind of conversation that comes up often with artists and is sort of endlessly, if not fascinating, sort of insightful or helpful, because it's something we all deal with. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. It's like the infrastructure is crumbling around us, and the only people that are winning are the people with big followings. That is where it's all going, you know? And so you're just like, I guess I have to make peace with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's a hard game.
It's a hard game.
That sucks that it has to be a game, I guess. But I liked what you said about doing something or sharing something because you are proud of it, or you're excited about it, or you resonate with something. I think that has been, when I've made that more of my focus in anything I'm doing, flowers, design, music, it's helped me create in a more authentic way. And because I did put a lot of pressure on myself, just what are people going to think if I go for this or I do this? And I feel like when you take that away and you just share something that's important to you, there's someone else out there that is like, oh, okay, she's doing it, then I'm going to do it too, or might feel encouraged by it.
Absolutely. I think for a second thinking about the social media thing and my own like crippling nerdery. I am like, I've just been like a book nerd since I was a little kid, and I've spent most of my 20s like just reading classic literature and booking a bluegrass band. Those were my two activities. And, you know, it's hard to say what I have to show for myself for that, but I've had a great time reading, and I just love it. Anyway, since forever ago, I started like whenever I'd come across something that was just interesting to me in a book, like a passage, I would write it down on a 3x5 card and just like chuck it. And I've kept those over the years. I have hundreds of them. And over a year ago, I was like, I'm going to start posting these on stories. And second thought was, God, people are just going to be like either annoyed or irritated, or it's like, who does this guy think he is? Like, these are like, some of them are kind of highbrowy, you know, like, but they're inspiring to me. And I had to be like, you know what? There's somebody out there that's just like me. And I want to meet people like that like me resonated with, you know, Tolstoy or whoever. And that was helpful. And it's like, it's also just like, no one cares, dude. No one is talking about you. No one is going like, they're just swiping on if they don't care. So just do your thing. I feel like
you're either encouraging someone or giving them a better outlook on their day, or someone's not thinking anything about it.
Yes. Those are the only two things.
And so
there's no hate swiping going on.
No. So really. I think it's like, it's a good thing in that case. I like them. I saw that you do that. I think
thank
cool.
you. Oh, thanks. Cool. All right. Thumbs up from Abby. Well, we've been talking for a minute, and I have really appreciated this. And I didn't know if it was appropriate, but you know, we also just take this out of the podcast if you don't want it. Zero evidence of it. But I just wonder if, like, growing up in your situation, you just lost your father very recently. And first of all, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
And we talked a little bit about it in the kitchen, but it was kind of both sudden and not. Is maybe, and growing up in that household, is that part of what kind of made you want to express yourself in music? And, you know, you may not even be able to like know that for sure, but do you think that that came into the mix in terms of you wanting to write songs?
Yeah, definitely. I think it made me want to look into myself and want to share things in a vulnerable way that maybe I can't do as well outside of music. I also think it's been like a healing thing for me to put it into music and express myself that way. I also think it's held me back over the years, like not blaming it, just I think I was in a lot of ways focusing on how to help or how to make things better. And I feel like I put a lot of energy into that instead of being like, what do I want to do, you know, with music, or what do I want to go do with my life? Like, I feel like I'm kind of figuring that out now. And I also had this, at times I had so much support. Like, my dad was always encouraging me to like do my music. Like, there was always a lot of encouragement there. Both my mom and dad just encouraging me to like go for something that I loved. So it's like I held both of those things, and I think it's been a really hard few years. And so just coming off the back end of that, it's like I'm just more evaluating like what's important to me and what do I want to like be better at or learn from the whole thing. And I feel like music is comforting me during that time.
Again, it just is like a credit toward the power of art. It's like whatever happens to your career, and I think there was going to be wonderful things in store for you, it's almost like a moot point compared to like what it gives you just to be able to process that and explore those feelings with songs. Yeah,
and I think I'm surrounded by a lot of like, I have another job too. I'm a personal assistant for a like publishing company, for the owners of the publishing company, and it's like part-time, and I work out of the office a lot too, but I'm surrounded by like a ton of incredible like musicians and artists and songwriters, and it's like it's really inspired me, I feel like, to be like just to do what I enjoy doing. I feel like I've learned so much since being in Nashville.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you got to spend a little time, or that you had a little time to spend here talking with us. And I wish you the best, Abby. I think it's going to be wonderful to see what happens next.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go ahead and click here to like and subscribe. You can click right there to watch another video, or click here to watch a playlist featuring songs of the Morse Code podcast. Okay, thank you very much.